on, man.
Alright, bro. Okay. So they can hear me. Frederick.
Oh, I thought that was me.
Hey guys, welcome to another live show. Sorry, I was eating something because I'm starving. Welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Apparently, we have a lot to talk about. You know, that's what Deluded said on his last show. So I'm gonna say the same thing. We just came from his channel and we talked about all things Arsenal. So make sure you guys check that out after we get done here. But yeah, we're going to talk about a little bit different and more of the same. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And let's go ahead and jump into it. I do want to talk about Ekitike. I want to talk about, is he better than Sesko? Is he a better option than Sesko? Why would he be? Our striker search, you know, all this stuff is coming out about Nico Williams is telling his friends that he's coming to Arsenal. Juan Garcia is already done. Like all this shit. Like, do we actually believe it, you know? And are these the actual players that are going to take us to the next level? So yeah, make sure you guys are in the comment section letting us know, or in the chat, what you guys think. I do want to start off with something that had come up when Sociedad played against Betis the other day. First of all, this just popped into my head. Before we get into Sociedad, what do you make of Antony scoring all these goals for Betis all of a sudden? Is it just that league is shit, or is he just better? Like, what's going on? Because
I'm shameless.
Go ahead.
I'm shameless. It's the Man United is not the place to be. It was never Antony. It's all Man United. He's probably just found his level, not necessarily the league, but Betis. And to be fair, I used to rate Antony. We all saw him at United. He didn't get ratings. It's probably confidence, you know. It's probably confidence. But then a lot of my Manchester United friends say this is how Antony started his career at Man United. He scored like 3 and 3, so time will tell. But it probably just a confidence thing, man. It's probably literally confidence. Like whether he's gonna be anything to justify his previous price tag, it's mainly just confidence. I hear why people would look at the league, but I think it's a confidence thing, man. It's got to be dark as a footballer, training, knowing that you're not coming off the bench. Now he knows he's got a team that's gonna believe in him, play him. And you see it all the time. Maybe not someone like Antony, but you see it all the time. Players leave. You know, it ain't really happened now. But Sancho, first couple of weeks of the season, everyone was saying Man United's the problem. He's back now. He's doing this and that. Kai Havertz at Arsenal as well. Obviously, he won the Champions League at Chelsea. But in terms of getting respect as a player week in, week out, he looks like a better player at Arsenal. That's probably down to confidence.
Yeah, it's just so funny. They're suffering, and Antony is just like
thriving.
Yeah, he's thriving. And what made me die was he was tapping the badge while on loan. I'm like, you are so unserious.
He's
like,
shameless, man.
He's very shameless. And his agent said he wants to go back to United. So
please.
I don't know yeah, I know. Go back to what you were. But yeah, so Betis played Real Sociedad the other day in La Liga. And then the timeline started flooding with all this negativity around Zubimendi. You know, if Zubimendi comes in, Beckham, sorry, I'm just looking at my dog right now. Declan is going to have to support him or protect him a lot. He's shit. You know, how do you go from Bruno Guimaraes to Zubimendi? This isn't the right profile. And then also couple that with, you know, Baliba being in that game against Chelsea. Is it the case that like Zubimendi kind of represents like a player that wouldn't be able to deal with the physicality of the Premier League? Would you envision him having issues adapting to our play style? Do you think he's the right type of player? Because I think both of us are fans of Bruno G, and he would be more of an ideal fit in my mind. So what do you think of like all of that? And we're basically already put the money down, for Zubimendi. Is he the right player for us and for that midfield?
I mean, you said the thing you said there, bang on the money. But Gomares would have been perfect. He can do everything we want as a centre midfielder and more. But that's irrelevant now. Whether we should have got him when he was in France or should have got him before his price tag went up at Newcastle, I don't know. Newcastle's gain is our loss. That's gone. I've got faith in Zubimendi. I mean, naturally, it's the first time I've heard people say he's had a bad game and whatnot. I mean, any footballers are not going to play amazing in every game for their whole career. Naturally, he's going to have to adapt. He's going to have to adapt to the system, to the league, to the intensity. He's never been here before. His teammates, etc. From what I've seen of him in the Euros, what I've seen of him, obviously in Sociedad in Spain, I've got complete confidence that he'll be able to gel. Whether Mikel Arteta will be able to find a long-term solution for that midfield trio with Odegaard struggles, with Rice looking like he's going to be the 8 and Zubimendi being the lone 6, and them gelling collectively might be another thing. But assuming we sign Zubimendi because he's not an Arsenal player, yeah, I'm behind the signing. I want Zubimendi at the football club. As you know, Jess, typically we take half of these signings with a pinch of salt, but I add even more salt when it comes to Zubimendi, because 1 minute you're going Liverpool, then Arsenal, then Madrid, then this one, then that one, and then there's a U-turn. So until I see interviews, how you saying you grew up watching Henry and Bergkamp and players of that ilk, it's neither here nor there, man. But I've got complete confidence in Zubimendi, man. I think his awareness is good. I think, obviously, he's not the most physically imposing footballer, because you mentioned Belemba, and that might be an issue. But I think the way he reads the game, his interceptions, the way he plays that 6 role, especially if Rice is going to be the 8, whether Arteta is right or wrong, Arteta wanted Rice. He wants Zubimendi and he wanted Odegaard. Yeah. So Arsenal fans make a big song and dance about, he needs the players that he wants. If this is what you want, give it to him if it's possible, and let's make it happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I could see different types of players being good for us. I don't think it's always just only one profile works. Yeah, so Zubimendi strikes me more of a Jorginho type, more of a technical player, more of a positional player, but he also...
He does muck in though. Like, for someone that's not the most physically imposing, he does like intercept and all of that.
He does have I think I saw like a stat the other day that he has like the most tackles and stuff like that in La Liga. Like, so he's not a player that just doesn't get stuck in and is like afraid to get in the mud, but he definitely is not a get the ball and run through the attack. But we haven't had a player like that. Like, as much as, people talk about Partey's physicality and it's dropped off in the last couple of years, but even he, to me, is more of a technical player. He's somebody that the things that we really liked about the way that he played was passing range and dropping the shoulder. It wasn't that he was bullying anybody, right? So I'm not sure where the Zubimendi negativity really stems from, but this is a really good question from Valeria. What qualities does Zubimendi have that we lack and desperately need? Diluted.
I don't think he's got necessarily. I wouldn't say it's desperately. It's more like Arteta wants the player. Partey's probably going to leave. I've said this to just before. I'd like the best of both worlds, where you keep Partey and you have Zubimendi. I don't think he's got necessarily standout attributes that we lack, but any intelligent midfielder for me is welcome at the club. I'm not really one of these fans that co-signs whatever Arteta wants, Arteta gets. But if there's a chance to get a player that Arteta wants and people say he needs all of that, go and get it done, man. And for me, it's just mainly his awareness, his intelligence, his interceptions, the way he played in the Euros final, what I've seen up until this point. Granted, against Betis, he was quite poor. I remember a couple of years ago against PSG, he was quite poor. He played well against United. I don't think he's a world-class player and all of that, but he's an Arsenal midfielder for me. He's got everything I've become accustomed to seeing in an Arsenal midfielder. Bring him to the carpet, man. But as I said on my stream, Jess, as much as we're talking about Zubimendi and he's the one that we seem to want, go all out for him. If you don't get him, I don't want to hear we tried. I don't want to hear that there's no one else on the market. Things have to be addressed this window.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. Like, I would love to get to the summer window and things just be done. Like, I don't really want, if Zubimendi is the one that you want, just get it done. Don't let it fester, and I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and they were basically saying, like, idealistically, like, she'd prefer if somebody else took Zubimendi, so we had to pivot. And I'm like, I understand that if you don't want Zubimendi, then it would be nice to hear that Real Madrid are interested and maybe could take him. My concern is that we're not good pivoters. And so I'd rather us go ahead and get Arteta's main choice, whether I like that or not, than us be like floundering in the middle of the window trying to figure out how to pivot away from the only person that we seem to ever be linked to and end up with somebody that's completely different or nothing at all. So yeah, Bulgarian Gunnar says Jorginho, Partey are leaving. We need a quality 6, and Zubimendi is exactly that. Johan says the idea of a typical physical bullying DM is gone. Andy says at Real Sociedad, they don't dominate the ball, so maybe it's the system. I think he did look better to me. It was the final and it was international football, so we have to caveat things with that, but it did feel like that suited him. Sociedad is a weird team because you're right, they don't always dominate possession, and they aren't always the best to watch at times, so they don't play free flowing the way that we would want to. So it's difficult to see him with Sociedad and be able to envision him with us. But the best team in the league and the best team in Europe did want Zubimendi and would have him if he wasn't so obsessed with being in San Sebastian. So if Liverpool were interested, you have to think that they would have done the.
Remember Bayern Munich wanted him as well.
Yeah, so it's interesting. He's really highly rated from managers of, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Arsenal, teams like that, Liverpool. He's highly rated, in the media, like in terms of like people that watch La Liga. The people that don't rate him seem to be Arsenal fans. So
they'll be the first rating him if in his first 5 games, if he plays amazing, they'll be back to rating him. Like, how many times do we see a player they don't rate, plays amazing, they love him, the form goes, they love him. It's just human nature, man. At this moment.
I mean, Sai is saying this is the first I've heard people giving Zuby shit is all purely on Twitter. A lot of it was on Twitter, and I've seen, different people talk about their concerns or, what they like about him, what they dislike.
And have concerns 100%.
But I think what happens is people start making problems with players instead of just saying, I just prefer someone else. If you prefer Bruno G, say that, because Zubimendi is the same player he's been for the whole time. Like, nothing has changed. He's just a different type of player. And so I would prefer a Bruno G type of player, but we're probably not going to get that. And for people that want that typical bullying, they watch Baliba play and they get all excited. For you guys are already complaining about not having enough technical quality in this team. Can you know what I mean? So Baliba is not somebody that's going to sit there and pick a pass, so I get why Zubimendi. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Zubimendi is an interesting one because it looks like something that they're trying to put out there is already done. We know he's not done until he's has the shirt and is on the website. But if you were to come in, it's just, I think he's just not the exciting signing that people want, and he's different than what people want. So the criticism is coming. And the same thing is happening with Nico Williams. Not having the best of seasons, I think, at Bilbao, right? Season. Yeah.
2-3 goals with that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, he just is not setting the world alight like he was pre the Euros. Would you still be excited if he came in?
Naturally, I would still, because again, your form looks a bit dead. I'd mainly be excited because my club is addressed an area we need to address. I got time for Trossard, I've got time for Martinelli. At the end of the day, they're not cutting the mustard. I must admit, if they did it last season, naturally, Euros, you was doing mad stuff, I'd be a lot more excited than now. But he's another one that we keep hearing Arteta wants and this and that and the third. So I'd be excited because we addressed an area and you've got a decent player and we've got stronger attackers. You throw in a striker, we might be in business for something. Yeah.
He's an interesting one because I still really like him and I still would take him even with the poor season. Because for me, it's like sometimes it's, that the player is good, but they're going through a bad time. If you weren't convinced on him in the beginning, you will use this as a reason. but Arteta is absolutely obsessed with him, and we haven't really been linked with anyone else. And
Is he really
so
better than Martinelli then with 3 goals?
you know what it is? I think Martinelli is a type of player that even if he's like the way that he's playing, his performances don't match up with anything. So it's like he could have 10 goals, and if the performances were the same, I still feel pretty similar about him. Just like I do with Kai, he doesn't offer enough football. He doesn't create enough football. It's just an action, and it's kicking it out for a corner. He can't beat his man anymore. He's not somebody that can jink past like the kind of goal that Matoma scored. You would probably never see Martinelli be able to do. And I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but what I'm saying is like that ability to do something outside of just cutting in and try to shoot with your right, or kicking it off of the defender and getting a corner, or tapping it in. Nico Williams has a little bit more to his game. He's not as refined because obviously he's a little bit more raw, but you could imagine with some coaching that he would be a really good player. I like him. I just wonder if Arsenal are actually going to pay the wages. That's where I'm kind of like, are you going to pay them wages or not?
Yeah. That's where you're like, is it going to make sense? Because he's not taking a wage cut, and as he shouldn't. You're going to the Premier League. I mean, if you have the Euros form, I don't think anyone cares that you're on 200 whatever grand a week. This current form is a bit shaky, but then if you want these kind of household names that are being linked with this club and that club and the third, you have to pay them handsomely, man.
Yeah, for sure. I do have a question off of the back of that, but I want to go back to some of these comments too. Like, what does the midfield look like with Zubi in it? I think it's Odegaard, Rice, and Zubi. Like, I think it's pretty. As much as people are trying to, make it like we have these big referendums and all these things, like we need to sit down and have a fucking conference about how the midfield is going to look next season. You know what the fuck the midfield is going to look like next season. Like we get it. Rice is going to be in the 8, Zubi's going to sit in the 6 if we get him, and Odegaard. And I think that's also where the criticism of Odegaard is coming in, because that doesn't feel like a midfield that's probably going to have a lot of dynamism. It feels a little bit more of like a steady midfield versus
I would like one more physical midfielder for the squad. That I can't lie, man.
Yeah.
Just because I think we need different options, man. Like I agree with you.
Kelly, though? Can't that be Miles?
Yeah, Miles will get game time, but I kind of just want someone ready-made right now simultaneously, because as much as I want to develop and all of that, we need to remember it's a right now thing. I just want Arteta sometimes to try different things, man. Like Rice obviously can play as a 6. Zubimendi can play as a lone 6. And I remember a few years ago against Brighton, obviously it didn't work. He had Odegaard and Smith Rowe rotating 8s, and he had Zubimendi as a lone 6, which he's done from time to time at Sociedad. So I do want to see little different things here and there. I just feel, with our track record, if Rice, Odegaard, or Zubimendi have an injury and we assume Partey's gone, I don't know if Ethan's necessarily going to play in midfield. And I think we all know what striker will go into midfield if push comes to shove. And I don't really want to see that.
Listen, but that's what happens when you spend that money on somebody like Kai. You're going to have to figure out a way to not waste those wages. And so we're not the type of team that can have a player on those types of wages. We can't have a Jack Grealish on our bench. We can't have that. So Arteta's going to find a way to use him. And so the repercussions of it is if he doesn't play striker, he'll play midfield. And we all know that, so we'll probably only get one midfielder. And if we get another one, it will be like a Nipin type of person. Like
More of a 10, if anything.
Yeah, I don't really envisage us going out there and getting anything other than Zubimendi. I think it's just going to be that. And then you have to assume that, like, if Zubimendi weren't able to play, Declan would slide into the 6 and we would play somebody else at left 8. You bought Marino. You can't.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him, man. Big him up. Yeah, you do have him. So it is only going to be one.
Yeah, so it's, that's kind of where we're at. Valeria says, in your opinion, is a Rice better as a 6 or an 8? If we get Zubimendi, how does he play with him in midfield? I personally think we lack a highly technical number 8. And here's where the ideas of the fans and the ideas of Mikel greatly diverge. I think as Arsenal fans, we're used to our 8s being Santis and Ramses and, players like that. And Arteta envisions his 8s as more structural pieces, like Xhaka, like Rice, players like that are maybe a little bit less, like, no offense to Xhaka. Xhaka is a good player, technical player, but not like the small diminutive is gonna,
A lot
dribble
more
past
technical
you
than Aaron Ramsey, to be fair.
100%. And so I would prefer just doubling down on Rice at the 6. I think you kind of changed your mind a little bit over the last couple of games about Rice being an 8, right?
I still think his bread and butter is a 6. I just still think, like that's the man even said my best position is a 6. But at the end, I've come to accept he's in the 8. And I've always got it, but I kind of get. And I think maybe it's recency bias because I think in the last couple of games, even when he hasn't been outstanding, I still think there's been there. I get it. Like he wants those third man runs. He likes his box to box nature. He likes to win the ball back high up the field. I just think he's here to stay in there. Like that doesn't rule out Rice ever reverting back to the 6. And who said so? Someone in my chat said it, and it made sense in the sense of it's more. I guess it could be the build-up play from Declan Rice. Like he's not a guy that's gonna consistently receive it under pressure in that 6 and then look to break forward. That's probably why we've got that inverted midfield. The centre back splitting, and he gets it in certain areas where he can drive or make things happen. For me, bread and butter is a 6 in it. I'd prefer Rice to be a 6, but I'm more open to him as an 8. Now, my only issue with him as an 8 is he's making a good meal of it, and he's obviously, last season had his best season in terms of outputs or something. My only issue is that's never been you. So as good as it is, how good will it be? You're never going to, no disrespect, but you're never going to be Gerrard. You're never going to be Lampard. You're never going to be Michael Carrick. So how good is he going to be in that 6? How many goals is he going to add into his game? How you get it? But he's all right, man.
There's too much like in the air about what you have to become, and that's one of my things with Mikel is like there's always a gap between what the player is and what they do really well and who Arteta wants them to be. Whether Arteta can get them there, I think sometimes is like more fantasy than like reality. He thought he could change Kai Havertz into this left center mid floater.
Sometimes accept players for they are, man.
Yeah, and he just isn't that player. Rice, he wants him to become this all action box to box number 8.
Said it. Big up Inner Circle. That's who said it. He's normally on my chat. That's who he is mainly his point in relation to the build-up play and all that kind of stuff with Rice.
If somebody said it, Inner Circle?
Yeah, in Inner Circle. He's always in my chat. Big him up. Yeah, he's the one that planted the seed in my brain about Rice.
Yeah. So it's one of those where if Declan could add the goals, if Declan can refine himself in the final third, if Declan, and I rate Declan very highly, but would I prefer us just to put players in positions where they thrive versus trying to make them into something else? I think I'd, prefer just buy players for the positions. But, back to your
because even this season, Jess, like what he was 6 against Liverpool at the Emirates, right? Bossed it. There's been a couple times he's reverted back to that 6 this year and bossed it to Adrian Point.
Yeah, and I think what happens with that is like usually the left 8 doesn't offer enough. It's like once you put Rice in the 6, Rice being our best 8, left 8, means that you're taking away our best left 8 from that position. So then you're left with like Marino, who hasn't really he's not, they don't produce enough. They don't get the ball and turn and, receive the ball in the pockets and, create the assists and do that kind of stuff. Like they don't do that. Our left 8 pretty much just it's kind of like a secondary feature. So I get why Arteta keeps him there, and his better option, he has better options outside of Rice in the 6 than he does outside of Rice in the 8. But if you go with Zubimendi and Rice, you do still have to have somebody I feel like that can come in and be more of a creative force in there. I just don't know if we'll be able to get that player in. I would love for us to be able to identify a Shirky type or, somebody like that can be another player that we can make ourselves more creative on the fly. I just don't know if we'll
asking for a lot, man.
I feel like
about the jewels now. It's the jewels and that now, man.
Yeah, I feel like and you know what? And that kind of leads me back to the attacking thing, because it's like, well, if you're not going to be able to rely on your midfield to be these high GA players, then your attackers need to be on it.
They're going to be monsters.
Is going to be that guy. But then those other 2 positions they need to be producing a lot of GA, and I think that's where maybe people are not looking at Nico Williams as an exciting prospect, because his numbers are not great. You really have to watch him, watch him on a good day to see it, because he's not creating like a lot of GA. If you had to choose just like right now, gun to your head, go get Nico Williams or get somebody like Semenyo, what would you do? Because Semenyo is another name that's floating around that people are like, this is the next guy up. Would you rather have Semenyo?
I got a lot of time for Semenyo. I got a lot of time for Semenyo. I like him a lot, man. I just feel, well, you could caveat that by saying I think Nico Williams costs less, but Semenyo's going to get less wages. I'd more bet on the Nico Williams. I like Semenyo, but I think Bournemouth are going to play hardball. They're definitely going to charge us more than that 50 odd. At least we know Nico Williams has a release clause. We have activated, which I don't think Arsenal will. I think they'll say a thing that will pay a bit more, spread out the payments, but there might be a willingness to work around that. Bournemouth are probably, anything can happen, and it's the evolution of life, but Bournemouth are probably going to face a fight to hold on to Semenyo, to hold on to who's their left back, Kirkes, Cliver, maybe even their manager. So I just think it'd be a bit easier to work with Bilbao, because surely even that they expected 1 year. But then how much of a chance do we really have for him? Because I know the reports at this moment in time is saying, Yalmao is saying he's telling Yalmao he's going to Arsenal and all of that. But surely we're still second to Barca.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, to answer your question, Nico Williams.
Yeah, I feel like, as unpopular as this probably sounds, I would lean still towards Nico Williams. I feel like I've seen the talent and more exciting. Like, I feel like it's more exciting, and it's also like you don't have to pay the Prem tax, which I think Semenyo would cost an arm and a leg.
And that's another one that Arteta wants. So the more players you get, the less excuses the gaffer has for not delivering.
Yeah, it's like I want him to get all the people that he kind of wants. So it's like we can just, but that being said, it's like, you got maybe Saka, maybe you have Nico Williams, you have those two players. Now, what happens at center forward?
You need a striker.
Yeah, but Isak is, the price is meant to be a little bit lower if they don't make Champions League, blase blah. Then you have Sesko, another one that literally no one wants. Like, people really have like an aversion to this player, and I don't really understand why. And then there's Ekitike, who's now been linked to us. Let's just go through those three options. Isak, is there any chance that we could get him?
There's always a chance in life, but how long's a piece of string, man? You're relying on Newcastle to want to sell him. It's one thing bidding 100 million. It's the next thing that being acceptable terms to Newcastle if they don't want more. We know the way they're going to want their payment and the way we're going to want to pay are going to be separate things. He's got 3 years left on his deal. They might get Champions League football where they'll say, listen, we're going to spend a bit more, add a bit more quality. We've got something here. He's got 3 years left on his deal as well. If he had 2 years or ideally a year, then you've got something. But you'd need him to do his part. You need Arsenal to offer favourable terms. Other than that, it just remains a dream. It'd be my first choice, but it's a dream, isn't it, really? And again, it's one thing saying spend 100, 115, 20, 30, whatever it is at. But then we're talking about striker. We're just talking about Nico Williams, where I think you need to get to both of those positions identified. We spoke about Zubimendi after. That's like 50 odd billion. We need a couple goalies, and anything else Arteta wants. Is the budget? I don't know what our budget is, but does this sound on brand with Arsenal?
Yeah, it just doesn't. And we've just had enough opportunities to get him, or at least try, and we're just kind of like still gun shy a little bit. Last summer, we didn't even really try, to be honest. The PR came out, and then we kind of tried for Sesko. I don't think Arsenal missed the boat. They needed to get him. They needed to take the risk that Newcastle took. They were unwilling to do so. They wanted to see him develop somewhere else and then bully somebody into giving us Isak for cheap. And that doesn't work, not in the Prem. I don't know why they haven't gotten to the place where they understand that once they go to the Prem, they're pretty much they're unattainable to us because we don't ever offer the money that's required. We go in with the lawyers that say like, oh, well, our data says that he's only worth 70 million. He's only worth 80 million. He's worth way more than that to them. You have to overspend sometimes to get what you want. And we know that if they really want him, they will overspend because they overspent on Declan. Declan to me is like, of course we overspent by like probably 20 million, prem tax, English tax, all those types of things. But that's what you have to do to get the players that you want from another prem side.
Kai as well.
Yeah, Kai as well. But when it comes to these attackers, they seem to always, I'm not sure about it. You're not going to get Isak if you don't come up there with a really good offer that also includes a lot of money up front. And so I kind of agree with a lot of the comments, that people are saying that it'll probably end up at a Chelsea or a Liverpool because they will pay what's required. They'll pay the money, so yeah. What about Sesko? Sesko is still lighting it up in the Bundesliga, scoring nice goals. Every time I see him score a goal and I see the replay, I'm thinking, now how could you look at this player and just say he's not good enough? He has the ball striking ability. He's young. He has the physical attributes. He's a traditional kind of like number 9. He has his best years ahead of him. Right now, he has 9 goals and 3 assists in the Bundesliga, and he has 4 goals in the Champions League and a couple of goals in the Cups. What is it about Sesko that people don't like? Because I know you like him, or you at least would take him at Arsenal. What is it about this player?
No, man, I've got time for Sesko. I guess one thing I would say is like, obviously, like we're always linked with Isak. We're seeing Isak bully the top teams. We're seeing him firsthand do what he's doing to us. Even now, we're still talking about him. And respectfully to Sesko, when you're seeing what Isak is doing and the links, I guess it's very difficult for fans to go with Sesko. And I guess Sesko, he's on the cusp of an outbreak. He's not quite got there yet because, you look at last season, he finished it strongly, didn't start it well. He was kind of in out the side with Openda. He's at that stage where well, statistically probably not, but he's probably at that stage where Isak looked like at Sociedad, different players, of course, but ready to make that breakthrough. I'm having Sesko again. I'm going to say it. Another player that we know Arteta wants and likes. The more players you get, the less excuses. He's young. He can be rotated in and out the side. And I genuinely think in the next 2 years, I'm not saying he's going to be world class, top class or whatever, but if we're having these conversations in 2 years, he's going to be one that's going to be in the title of mine and your vids and in the thumbnails and all of that. Bring him to the carpet, man. I just need a striker. Like, I need a striker.
I think we're at that point now where it's like almost like just bring in anyone, not anybody, but these options are all great. Just get it done. And the constant conversation about Sesko not being ready and he's a project or he's a blah, blah, blah. I don't think he's a project. I think a project is somebody that I don't think you can say that somebody with 100 goals for club and country, somebody that plays for a team that played in the Champions League at 21, somebody that plays in a top 5 league is a project, or you know what I mean? I think a project player would have been more like Mudryk, not a top 5 league, about 30 appearances, was just somebody that people were just swinging at the fences for. Sesko is not a project. He is a young player that hasn't reached his full potential yet. Those are 2 different things, because a prospect and a project is somebody that you would expect minimal, somebody that probably won't affect our season that much, because they're so raw, that they just, I think you could be a young player that's still learning your trade and still learning to get to the best of your ability and still contribute, and I think that's where the disconnect is that people assume that Sesko like basically won't score any goals. Like
maybe he's not sexy on the ball, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's, well, he's young and not the final product, so he can't contribute anything. He would score goals for us. Of course he would score goals for us. Would he make all of them? No. But I don't see why he would be like this big, whatever. Because in 1 to 2 seasons, I know it's like, we're next season FC. But if you had this Sesko that you had just right now in your team with Kai Havertz, I would still feel like we had a better chance of doing the things that we want to do, even in the where he is right now. So I like Sesko. I would have him. I think he's a really good player that does a lot of the things that we need. And yeah, he scored a goal the other day where I know everybody was talking about Xavi Simons, but it was like a basic pass that pretty much all of our players could probably do. Pass it into the channel. Hold on real quick. This dog is Sorry, we had like a situation.
Peed on
But
the floor.
I wish it was just that.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I think Sesko is good enough, and I would take him literally, but a lot of people don't like him. So, and they're
He's
comparing
21,
him.
man. Like he's
What?
21. He's only gonna get better. Like I know
Yeah,
people want ready made and all of this stuff, and I therefore like ready made for me is Isaac, and I hope to be proven wrong. But if on one hand we're saying we're not gonna get Isaac, we don't feel we're gonna get Gyökeres, we've got to move on, then, innit? Really, like we've got to move on and look at the other variables.
this is a good question. Would you say he's good enough to win us the title next year, leading the line? What do you think?
He can play his part as well as adding into the quality you already have and making additions. He can play his part. You need to assemble a good squad. One man isn't necessarily going to make the difference. Even Van Persie at Man United, of course, he is the difference, his goals and whatnot. But look at the rest of the other side. When you recruit well, if we recruit a decent left winger, if we recruit a decent striker, if we get a decent centre mid, on top of the quality we've got to go to another level, we're laughing. There's this magic thing where one person makes the difference. Even Liverpool with Van Dijk and Alisson, of course, you could look at it like that. But they did their homework and put all the other bits and pieces into play. I have no doubt Sesko will do his thing for us. The only thing I would say, as silly as it is, without knowing everything, I think it's crazy if Mikel Arteta told you you're going to be second fiddle to Kai Havertz. But if you were genuinely shook of that, I am looking at you a bit scared. I'm looking at you a bit funny over that one, but I'm having him.
Yeah, I think with this question, it's, do I think that he would have, missed some of the sitters that some of our players missed, things like that. It's not about
100%.
how
Your strikers don't.
yeah,
Haaland misses them all the time. The only difference is you give man enough chance, he's bagging. I expect my strikers to be up there for big chance miss. That's one thing that pees me off. Just the striker's not going to convert 100% of all his chances over 38 games.
Yeah, and there's like with players like Sesko, for me, it's not always about how many goals they're going to score. It's when they score. I think we don't score in the moments that matter. I think we draw too many blanks. I think we struggle, in like the Newcastle game, Newcastle at home and Manchester United at home. That wasn't about how many goals we scored. We couldn't do shit. Like it was just missing those wide open chances. Do I think Sesko would have put one of those away? Also, I think Sesko is one of those types of strikers because I think once we get a striker, it'll be really obvious that a lot of these chances that we think we don't have, we do. They're like those, they're not clear-cut chances, but they're like half chances that a good striker can turn into a full chance just because they know how to score the goal. We have a lot of times where like that goal that Sesko scored where Xavi Simons passed it into the space for him to run onto. Instead of just kicking it off of the defender and getting a corner, he chopped it in and then hit it in the roof of the net. Our players are not going to do that on a regular basis. If they do it, we're going to be like, wow, I can't believe he did it. So I think it's the amount of half chances that we leave on the table that don't become full chances or goals. And will he score in the moments that some of our players flatter to deceive? I think he could. Is he perfect? No, but nobody is. Literally nobody is. Like you said, every player misses big chances. So it's like, yeah, but I get people are like, yeah, but so-and-so is better. Yeah, because he's 21 and the players that you're comparing him to are older. But in the next 1 to 2 years, he looks like somebody that could actually become one of the best in the world. And I'm not sure about some of the other players.
I think it obviously Isaac's his own case, yeah, and I don't want to keep comparing Sesko to Isaac, but when Newcastle bought Isaac for 80 odd million, which people like to forget, he had like 6 goals in the league or something like that.
100%. So yeah, Hugo Ekitike has been linked to Arsenal. I think a lot of people are excited about that because over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that online Arsenal fans are starting to watch this player a lot more. I think they started watching Marmoush, and then once, it's like then Ekitike is there and it's like, oh, what is this player? He was a player at PSG. He's been around. He's a young player that's starting to really find his feet at Frankfurt. And he looks like a nice player. He's skillful. He's fun to watch. He's aesthetically pleasing. He's scoring goals. And a lot of people have put him above Sesko in their list, or as somebody that's more similar to Isak. What is your feeling on this player? Would you take him at Arsenal? And what are the key differences between like him and Sesko? in your opinion?
He's got to slightly improve his defensive work rate if you're going to play for Arsenal. Clearly under Mikel Arteta, I think sometimes it's going to sound dumb, but he can enjoy his football a bit too much. You need to be a bit more calculated. Other than that, he's on paper. He's not my first choice. I'd rather the Isaacs. I'd rather Sesko's. I just think Sesko's more of a killer. I think he's got everything you look for. Obviously, Arsenal have a history with French strikers. He's at 22, turning 23. It didn't work for him at PSG. He's finding his feet again at Frankfurt. He's having a great goal scoring season, like 29 goal contributions or something. Whether that's, I think the highest he hit after that was like 10 in France when he was at Reims or however you pronounce it. So I don't know if that's a purple patch or I don't know if that's him here to announce himself because he's finally got a platform. But I like his general play. I like the variety in the goals he scores. Obviously, like Sesko, he gives us height. Seems like a nice lad as well that, he will learn and unlearn bad habits. I'm having him clearly more stylish on the ball than Sesko. He's a bit more aesthetically pleasing. I would prefer Sesko and Isaac and these ones, but I would not turn up my nose to Hugo Ekitike, man.
Victor says Ekitike equals Leverkusen Havertz, in my opinion. He's a very good ball progressor carrier, which we don't have. I think Sesko is more of a box air threat and seems more clinical.
He's a cuter dribbler than Sesko. Sesko's better at carrying the ball and attacking space. Hugo Ekitike, he's a bit more stylish with it. I'm cool with either one, but I'd rather Sesko, man. I just want someone to put the ball in the back of the net, really.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's on that.
I agree. I just prefer what we haven't had before. I think we've had these types of they can do more than just score goals type of thing. And then it ends up being the case that we want more goals. I think as long as you get the winger that creates, and Saka's doing it, and you have Ethan and players like that, they can create a lot of good chances for a player that just knows how to dominate the penalty area. There's somebody that knows how to be at the right place at the right time, that scores those Marino type goals. I think we need that more. And somebody dropping in and creating for Saka and Nico Williams. I want somebody that just is kind of like a goal scorer, to be honest. And I don't think that means that Sesko is dead outside the box. Like, he's not Timberland Boots Holland, but it's just, yeah, I just prefer Sesko, but I get when you watch him, he's probably a little bit more fun to watch, so I definitely get that. Nico says, but do we create enough chances, Jess? I mean, Saka creates a shit ton of chances for people that just do not put the ball in the back of the net. Like, a lot of the types of the crosses and the balls across the six that Saka creates, the reason why those don't become goals is because there's no one there. Havertz cannot sniff out the chance. It's not just him, it's multiple players. And this is all kind of well, if you had a different winger on the other side, not Martinelli, who struggles to create anything, and, Trossard, who you don't know if you're going to get Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. Yeah, you probably do. But again, people think of chances as right in front of the box, nobody around you, and tapping it in. A striker makes half chances into full chances. And so it's about them also being able to create their own chances. And our players don't do that. Martinelli and Havertz do not create their own chances. They don't know how to sniff out those, it's just very they need to have a tap in.
Kai Havertz needs it laid on the plate. Martinelli does all the quote unquote all the right things until it's time to put the ball in the back of the net or pass. We saw the North London derby last year, actually, when we was wearing the black kit. You saw that. You saw it against Inter. You saw it against Atalanta. He's just not clinical enough. Kai's service reliant. You lot can contribute and be part of the squad, but we need better. It's as simple as that. If your form's out of the world, then you lot can play. But yeah, we need better. We undoubtedly need better. And in relation to chance creation, I'm a bit conflicted because I feel we create enough chances. I don't feel we take the chances. But at the same time, I feel we could create a lot more. And it goes back, you add in what Jess said earlier about, a striker might just, rather than go for a corner, he might just buy himself a yard and hit it. I do think there's a lot we need to address on a coaching aspect in that regards to reach that next level.
You know what
a strike would be a great step in that direction.
Yeah. You know what it is, piggybacking off of what you're just saying. It's when we play against the better teams, we do create more than enough. We don't take those chances.
We don't take
because
them.
those chances are a little bit more limited, but we do create chances against the better sides. We don't score. Against the lesser sides, what ends up happening is we can't break down the mid block. And you'll have these little chances where, you get that one or two chances where if you just put that away, then you break
It's
up
a
the
different
mid
game.
block and we just don't take it. And that's the type of chance that like a striker will give you, because our thing with the mid block is we can't break it down. And when we get the odd opportunity too early on to change the game, we don't do it, So I think a striker does help a lot of those things. And, like Rob is saying, Odegaard would probably try to feed a striker more often if he trusted them not to fuck around. And a lot of people were saying that Odegaard was annoying them because he flicked that ball up to Trossard, and not the offside one, but there was another one and it dropped right to Trossard's foot. He whiffed it. And I'm like, a striker puts that in the back of the net. A striker puts that in the back of the net. A lot of the crosses that are put in from that right-hand side, they get a head on it. It doesn't just go to no one. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we leave on the table that don't look like chances because our strikers just do not make them look like chances because they're either not in the right place or they pass it instead of shoot, So I think we could create more chances. Absolutely. We could create more chances. I agree with you guys. But also, you do different things based on who's up there. And I don't think Odegaard is going to try to do the same things on the ball when he has Havertz there. He would do something different if Sesko was up there. I think,
Well, at least we hope Arteta would demand different things from a footballing perspective in that regard.
Absolutely. I agree. Jalen says 100%. Victor says, 100%. Our striker does so much non-goal scoring work. It's not just a quality thing, but also a coaching thing. Havertz isn't great, but he is also not in the box enough due to instruction. And that's one thing that I feel like has changed from last season to this season. At the back end of last season, I felt like when he was scoring all those goals, he was just in goal scoring positions. He was heading the ball in the back of the net, hitting those tap-ins, whatever, you could find him. This season, it feels like he's drifting more wide, try to find the spaces. And I'm not quite sure why that is, because every time I see him on the wing, it's just like, wow, the game is over. He's on the wing, Saida says, I was watching some of our older games when Wenger was still manager. When you compare the amount of chances then to now, you can see how much less we create. I think also the game was a little bit different then. I never saw anybody sit in a mid or deep block against us against Wenger. I thought it was just like more wide open. I don't know why people didn't sit in the blocks, but I get what you're saying. And we could definitely create more chances. But under Wenger, you had 4 10s on the pitch almost every single game. Like even latter stages of Arsene. Do you remember this? Like you had Arteta at the 6, who's a 10. You would have Santi, in some midfield position. Sometimes you would have Ozil. Sometimes you'd have Ramsey. Ramsey would be on the
like
wing.
A starting 11 of 10s, really. Apart from the back line. And the back line weren't anything to scream and shout about 9 times out of 10 them times.
So naturally, you're going to create more chances, but we don't really do that, So I completely understand. I don't think we'll ever go back to that.
Probably due to how they set the teams up. Now, I'm not criticizing Mikel Arteta. Obviously, he's got his own blueprint and he wants to go out there and do whatever he wants to do, regardless of the opponent. But Mikel Arteta, a big emphasis on Mikel Arteta is winning the ball back as quickly and as high up the pitch as possible and getting into attacking areas as quickly in as less passes as possible. And again, it seems like the wide areas is where the joy comes from, because there is an element of that. These strikers have to be a bit of a sacrificial lamb to play in this system. The joy comes from the wide areas. You still have to get in the box, but Raya's going to lump it long. You are going to have to pull out wide and operate off the first and second balls. Like there's no way around it. We're not just going to sign a guy who's just going to put the ball in the back of the net. The modern day don't require that. Now, Haaland's never going to be the most amazing with his general play. But if you go and watch the first year at City to now, there's at least an improvement in that regards and helping in that regard. So, yeah, man, just bring us forward, man.
This is the question I think that people want to get to. We have to have how do we see Nwaneri and Saka working together? Who needs to drop out? You were asking me these questions earlier, so now I'm going to ask you the same questions. Nwaneri is obviously playing so well that I think people are anticipating everything changing and somebody needs to drop out. I think most people feel like just take Odegaard out. And then there's some people that are like, Saka needs to do something different. How do you feel about, first of all, tell me about how you feel about the way Nwaneri has applied himself, the season that he's having so far, and then I guess we can kind of get into the how do we shove somebody to into a corner and put him in their position?
I
Because that's
mean,
what it feels like.
Ethan Nwaneri, there's no bigger compliment I can give you than just saying thank you. You're showing consistency. You're obviously in a good moment of confidence. There's a degree of inevitability on that left foot, whether you're getting assists like in the Leicester game or the screamers we've seen in the League Cup, in the Champions League against City. Just doing amazing things. And I know on one hand, as I said on my stream, you got to be able to play in a bunch of positions. The manager said you could be a striker. You're taking it your chances on the right hand side. I think you're going to be a 10. Who knows? Long term, you could be an 8. We need options. Arsenal fans cry about depth and different game states and all of this. And the minute we get these things, we start acting like someone has to drop out. Of course, Odegaard's form has been on the floor, so it's easy. But if Odegaard's out of this world, Ethan's out of this world, and Saka's out of this world, where do we go with it? I'm cool with either, man. I think the minute Saka's back and fully fit, you're in, man. Like, Ethan's going to be a rotationary kind of player in the short to medium term. And then obviously if he keeps up this trajectory, starting out right, man, like it's a joy to watch, man. God knows how much Ethan has saved us in terms of a price tag and a player. And to the point where I don't know if the club are going to buy a winger, because they might say Ethan can play all about the place as well as there. We could save a bit more money, maybe go a bit harder up front to fuel the Isaac speculation.
Would you want that? Would you want that? Like, if because they're probably going to renew Trossard, which and then Martinelli's probably going to get a new contract. Ethan is there, so would you just say, Ethan, you're the backup winger, or you could start on the left? Because I think he could start on the left. I think it'd be fine. I'm not all like these inverted wingers have to be the end all be all, but stick Ethan on the left, put Saka on the right, and then go big for like Isak. Would you accept that? Would you love that?
I would love Isaac, but I still think you need a striker, a winger who can predominantly play on the left-hand side. Ethan, you're taking your chance. You've got nothing to worry about, whether it's on the left, right, 10, you're going to play. We need to remember physically, he's still developing. It wasn't too long ago when we had this injury crisis and he played 2 games in a row, and I'm sure he got hooked at halftime. He's still developing. Like, we need all of this. Like, we're competing in 4 competitions with a squad of 19. As Mikel Arteta said, it's not making sense. So we need different options. If you want to start, you could argue Ethan's form, you're undroppable. The Kai Havertz of the second half of last season, regardless of me wanting a striker, it's your position to lose. We need this. We want this. We need this.
I would love to know from you guys in the comments too, like, since we're having these conversations. I personally think Ethan can play in any of those 4 positions. Like, I think he can play left wing, right center mid, or left center mid. We saw him play left center mid in preseason, and he was one of our best players in preseason too.
I don't think he's ready for that yet, no, man.
Yeah, but let's fast forward a couple of years and say that he is ready to play all of those positions. I want you guys to let me know in the chat, in what order do you think would be his best? So, like, for me, I would say, let's say right center mid, left center mid, right wing, left wing. That's the order in which I would want him to, like, from best position for him to worst position. I'd like to know from your guys' perspective, because he can play all those. I think we're talking about like a player that, like, obviously he's going to be able to play all of those, but I would love to see him at left center mid as well. Or, for people that are like desperate for it, you could move Odegaard to the left center mid and you could play him right center mid. I think we should be more flexible with these positions. I think Arteta has tried to play 2 number 10s. He's already gotten Odegaard to this position where he's playing a lot deeper. Maybe play him on the left. Like, I don't know. But Ethan seems like somebody to me that long-term plays midfield.
Good problem.
Could play both of those positions. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to, Let's get some of these comments to see what you guys are saying. Tabuki says number 10, center mid, right wing, left wing, then false 9. So the number 10 would be the best. Samuel says Musiala role, second striker. Marco says left center mid first, left wing, right center mid, in that order for me. Nico says Odegaard is much better deeper.
Sai just didn't answer the question at all.
Nico's just saying what he wants to say.
Yeah, like big him up.
Sai says right wing, left wing, 10, and center forward. Let's see. Av Life says, I'm sorry, but I think he's going to be like Messi, starting off on the wing and then move central. He's not ready to control the game just yet, in my opinion. And I think the good thing about, as much as I know people are not happy with Odegaard and Saka's not there, those positions are kind of sorted. I really don't think we need to be like pressed about figuring out those positions. They don't need figuring out. He's a great backup for both of those positions. I think he can play on the left. I know Boy is saying he's wasted there.
100% he can play on the left, man. He's great in the pockets.
He's like a
Great.
baller.
You can also drift into central areas, especially when Rice is making that run. He can cut inside. There's so much good. We got a lot of bad problems that we've been in for 58 minutes and we was on my channel, so let's call it 2 hours about. There's some good problems to have, and obviously we're going to need a kind of a fixed way across a 38 game season of how we're playing. But we're going to have to stick and twist, mix and blend, and do little other things in all aspects, not just Ethan. These are good problems.
Yeah, I think these are good problems, and I feel like often as fans, like we're trying to figure out what's the negative angle for it or trying to add a little stank on it. There doesn't need to be any stank on this. Like seriously, we have not an embarrassment of riches, but we're in a much better position now, I feel like, with Ethan than we felt like we were last season, trying to figure out, is ESR going to be able to work? Is Fabio strong enough? Things like that. I think he solved that problem. Whatever that problem was, he solved that. Now we can look at the other things, hopefully. I don't think that this is an opportunity for Arsenal to not get a winger. I think it would be a mistake not to get a winger and just to go with the striker. But if it were the case that next season, Ethan played more minutes and, stuff like that, I still feel like he's somebody that could be so useful to us. Like not even just useful, but like a real member of the team. Like I think we're beyond that with MLS and Ethan. Like they're just going to play a couple minutes.
They're first team players,
They're
man.
serious. Yeah.
The age is relevant, but it's irrelevant now. You're genuine options.
Yeah.
Like Lewis Skelly's keeping a 30, 40, 50 million pound man out the side, and big up Calafiori. I'm a fan of his.
See, Nico, see what I said? Trying to put some stank on it.
Yeah, no, we ain't going to have that.
The negative angle.
Calm down, man. Calm down.
We don't. We have left center mid that's available. We have left wing that's available. There's plenty of minutes. Like Palmer, Chelsea, or Man City situation was completely different. Inner Circle says Ergen.
I think it means Ethan can play multiple roles.
Play multiple roles, exactly. Like, and it's not in that like, oh, he's a, what is it? A jack of all trades.
He's not being shoehorned or pigeonholed into that. He can actually do it. And that's, in a day and age where everybody can play everywhere, it's nice to have not just them, but Calafiori can play 1-2 roles. Benjamin White, if we ever see Tomiyasu the same, Lewis Skelly, the Ethans, everyone can play at least 2 to 3 positions in this team, bar a few. And we need that, man. Like we need this. This is good problems, or as Johan said, rich problems, man. I need you to solve out the negative problems first because it's all fun and games, us dreaming, speaking about Ethan and all of this. We need some additions. We need this summer to be bang on the money. I don't want to be speaking about we tried, man.
Agreed. Valeria asked the question, have we moved on past our attack, especially the left side? And is Odegaard an 8 or a number 10? And if number 8, do we get a number 10 that has quality in the final third? Bruno asks. So
Arteta will lose his marbles if a Bruno-esque kind of midfield is still.
I don't think Arteta he's been
I don't think he's on that.
Yeah, he's been here long enough for us to know that I think he prefers a 6 and 2/8.
He'd rather you keep moving it side to side than you keep spamming a certain ball into the box. So that's a myth. I think Odegaard's an 8.5, if I'm honest with you. I don't know if he's ever going to play as an 8 because it could be an option, but I don't know if he's going to move Rice over to the right-hand side and you do the 8 thing. Odegaard's over there, and then whoever either go with a 6 or a 10. I don't know.
In
the modern game's not 10s anymore, anyways.
Yeah, Arteta doesn't want that, and I don't think you necessarily have to have that. I think are the only way to get more creativity is just to have number 10s. I don't think it's just that simple. I just feel like if we're going to play with a more sturdy, simple midfield without like a mass creator, then the forward line needs to create more. And I think that's kind of where we're at. I think it's okay for Odegaard to be more of an 8. It is what it is, you know? So yeah, but getting a number 10 with more quality in the final or third, Bruno-esque, I don't know many top managers that would want a player like Bruno in their team. I think that player
wasteful, man.
Yeah, somebody that's like, he couldn't be like a fulcrum. He'd have to be like a coming off of the bench type of player. And I just don't see you attributing that type of funds. Like the player that I could think of that would be like that equivalent that doesn't play, that's not in the Prem, would be Alex Baena. Alex Baena is so similar to Bruno Fernandes in that way. He's not going to help you defensively. He's not going to, he's not going to do any of those types of things, but is he going to pick the pass and get the assists? Yeah, he has the most assists in La Liga. He can pick those passes. He's a good forward player, but he's going to leave the rest of the pitch to be exposed. And I'm not sure that Arteta is ever going to go to that. Even when he had like Fabio and Emil playing left 8, they kept it really simple. They weren't really getting the ball, and they were just kind of wall passing it and shit and keeping it safe. So I just don't think we'll get that. Now, should we have somebody that we can bring off of the bench that could make us more creative? Yes, but I think we spoke about this on Deludis channel. We're probably going to get like Zubimendi, and that'll probably be it for midfield, so Ethan is probably going to give you more creativity guy.
You never know, man. Fabio Vieira returned one last year. Let's give it a go.
Lord. The way I just do not see that happening. And you know what? We have too many players that are left-footed. I know that that's like out of left field, but
nah, keep them coming, man. Look at the three Haylenders with them left legs.
Too. So can we get somebody with a right foot? Like,
nah, man, fuck that. We got some wavy Gabriel Magalhaes as well. We got wavy players finally, man. Let's bring all the left-footed.
Like YouTube user says that Nipin kid. I know a lot of people were like almost getting like annoyed with him because he had like that long list of things that he was looking at and ended up staying. But I mean, I would still take him. I would still take him, having him and Ethan as additional options to make us more creative and give us more dynamism. I'm down for that. He plays in the pocket.
For me, man.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And I think we should be buying young players that can develop even when we're improving the first team and improving the starting 11. I don't think. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Marco says, I hope Fabio Vieira had eaten his peanut butter sandwich. Dude is a stick. Long term, he'd be a good squad player based on how we play, but he can't stay on his feet. Sad. Mohammed says, Barca entered Bayern, PSG, and Real don't have a number 10. You can play with 2 8s and a 6. The difference between us and those players is their attackers create a lot of football. They don't have like 2 players that only just like look at those attacks that they have, like Barcola, Doué, those types of players, Dembele. You give them the ball and they make it happen. They don't need everybody else to just make it happen for them. And so that's like the main difference between us and those teams, So I think improving those 2 positions up front will make it less that we're looking at midfield like create something, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think that we've talked about a lot of stuff, but not a lot still at the same time because nothing is really happening. Yeah, for sure. But are you gonna watch we find out our fate, right? For the next round of Champions League. Oh, on Friday we find out.
Definitely watching that, man. Probably watch it live with the subscribers there, man. I'm keen to see who we get. Do we get one of the Italian or Dutch sides or however it works, man?
Well, what would you prefer?
I mean, the bias is towards the Dutch sides, but Feyenoord technically, in the lead against AC Milan. And for me, it's more the away games in Europe. I'm not saying we can beat anyone at the Emirates. I reckon we give everybody a game. It's just like the Bayern, it's the away game. And I know a lot of people sit there and say, oh, we're more suited of a cup side. It's only 6 or 7 games. I hear that. But we talk a lot about fine margins where the Premier League is concerned. The Champions League's about fine margins. We more than competed against Bayern Munich across those 2 legs. When they had the chances, they took them. We went. Are we going to do that? And then again, I love Ethan. But if we're talking about winning the champs, it's a big burden on the 2 17-year-olds. Saka, how fit are you going to be? Raheem Sterling, do you want to get to another Champions League final? There's a lot of unanswered questions, man. So I'd rather the Dutch teams, man. But we're at that point now where, for me, I always look at cup competitions. Once you hit these rounds, you got to be prepared to play everyone. Innit? I don't think there's no avoiding and all of that. Just play the teams, man. Hopefully, you know, City go out. Slightly, I wish both City and Madrid could have went out. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Will do, Simon.
You know, I'm not trying to go away to any of the teams with history. And I don't want to see Conceição again. He's so dramatic. And it's just, no, I don't want to. Could you imagine, like, Pulisic crashing it on us? Like, do you know how angry I would be? Like,
Skelly got him in the back pocket, man. But the San Siro is a tough test, man. To be fair, when we went there against Inter, I don't think we struggled mentally. Obviously, forget the game and the penalty. I don't think we struggled mentally. But I still not really convinced with our performances away from home in the champs per se. Of course, there's been some exceptions. I don't know, man. I'd love to win the champs. I'd love to win the Prem, but it's looking like another season of celebrating effing nothing in me.
Yeah. And last question, Valeria is asking, what about Florian Wirtz?
I mean, I want to go on a date with Kelly Rowland. It says, "Oh, I'd love Florian Wirtz," but it's a myth, innit? Like, we're not spending 100+ million. If I'm wrong, which I hope I'm wrong, and if the Cronkies are watching, get it done, innit? Who wouldn't want Florian Wirtz? But he's gonna have the pick of the clubs. He's gonna have the Madrids, the Cities, this one and that one all over him. If there's a chance, try, innit? I'd love him.
Yeah, I mean, Nico said exactly like what I would have said is City are going to need to do something about KDB, and they're going to look for a big signing to fill that gap. They need a big signing to fill that gap. If they go into next season without addressing that, I think that hurts their chances. So he would probably be their number one option as somebody that's attainable and stuff. They're not going to be able to get Musiala out of
Pep factor as well.
Bayern, yeah, Pep factor, all that kind of stuff. And so as much as like I would love for us to be able to walk up to Leverkusen and ask for Florian Wirtz, it's going to cost like 100 million. The other players are going to be in it. And he's at a club right now that maybe doesn't guarantee him trophies, but are definitely very competitive. My concern with us is that in order for him to move from there to us, I think he'd need more than just, I'm going to play in the Prem. I think he'd want to go somewhere where he felt like he was guaranteed trophies. And we're not that team. Yeah, and that's why we'll struggle to get these types of players in the door. The Wirtzes and these guys will struggle to get them through the door because they're not going to leave their cushy place because he's basically already at Arsenal in the Bundesliga, but one that's won. Why would he come to us just to be in the Prem? Doesn't make sense, So I can see him going City. I can see him saying, at Leverkusen. I just don't think he's not an option for us, to be honest. So we need to go get Nijpen, whatever his name is. Go get Sever Nijpen. That's our words. Go get him for 10 million.
Is he ready though? Like, is he ready?
Wirtz?
Not Wirtz. Nijpen. Is he ready?
I mean, ready for what? To be a developmental player like in our team. Like we won't need him right away, but I think sometimes.
But then if we're not gonna play you right away, obviously you can train, you can do all of these kind of things. But if that's what I'm saying. That's what I was alluding to. Like I'm on getting him, developing him. If he goes into our first team, great. But if you buy him for 10 million, he looks good, but not quite great, and you can make 30, 40, can't go wrong making a profit, man.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think the problem is that if we do offer a loan, we don't have that immediate. We know what City are on. It was Girona that were interested in him, but he ends up at City in the long term.
Exactly.
They have like the system and the infrastructure already available.
They got a cartel there, man. It's a cartel we're up against.
We have nothing. We have academy players that haven't gotten loans. Our loan system is awful, so we would have to keep him in the team. And then how would Arteta integrate him? So it's a tough one, but we're well placed, guys. We put ourselves at the front of the queue for Nijpen in the summer. So we'll see how it goes. But listen, guys, if you guys want more of these types of conversations, we did do a show on Deluded's channel before the show started. You guys can click on the link in the title or just go to his YouTube channel, Deluded Gunner, and he'll pop up and our show will pop up. If you guys want more. Anything else going on that you want to tell people about?
No, I'm chilling today, man. Just follow me, subscribe to me, turn on your notification bells. I hang around like a bad smell. So there'll definitely be some videos and all of that. But yeah, man, I'm done for the day, man.
Yeah, 100%. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye,
Come on.
guys.